Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight on the Will and Dave Show. Quick little content advisory before we get into tonight's show. We are going to be talking about rights for trans minors in particular, and a particular court case that revolved around that. So we are going to be dealing with some stuff that may be triggering for some people. So just be aware of that as we get into things.
Welcome to the Will and Dave Show.
Hey, Will.
Howdy, I'm lit now.
You are. In a whole new sense of the word lit.
Yes.
Oh, gosh. How was your week, bud?
It was pretty good.
It was a week?
Productive.
Yeah.
It's a week. It was a week, but it was a productive week, so I can't complain too much.
Oh, there you go. That's good.
Yeah.
It's only you and me this week. It's going to be boring.
It is.
We're going to lose all our viewers.
It's back to basics anyways.
All the smart people are gone, and it's you and me.
Yeah, that part is true. That is a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Maybe Tim will tune up, and he'll turn the intelligent quotient up a little bit.
Yes.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Why don't we pay some bills?
Let's pay some bills.
Oh, do you know what? I'm missing a sponsorship.
Oh. Hey, my mascot's showing up though. If only briefly.
I don't know where it is.
Well, while you're finding that, I'll do the one for Kelly and Dottie. So Kelly and Dottie, for those of you who haven't been on the show before, they supported our show right from the very get-go. And it's due to their support that I could afford this fancy dancy microphone that makes me sound so smooth. And so we just wanted to thank them for their support, both monetarily and just through their actual verbal support and cheering us on with the show. It's much appreciated.
And the other one that's not showing up is Rafter G Land and Cattle, who are the most reluctant, unwilling sponsorship in history. And then we have our real sponsor, who is going to be a little bit quiet this week because I still have not fixed it, but I will have it fixed audio-wise for next week. But she is the reason we're here.
Hi, I'm Susan. I think that in all the world, there's nothing quite like the coziness of a handmade quilt. So I'm on a mission to spread that love as far and wide as I can. If you're a quilt maker, I offer long arm quilting services, and I accept work from anywhere in North America. If you already know how to make quilts and you want to learn how to machine quilt them yourself, I have a number of classes and lots of tutorials available that can help you with that. And if you don't want to do any of those processes, you just want to go straight to having the quilt with no delay, I do have a number of fully completed quilts available for sale as well. So details on all of those things can be found on my website, www.stitchedbysusan.com. Well, I've got to get back to quilting, so I'm going to let you get back to the Will and Dave Show. Enjoy.
And one more, for those of you so inclined, you can buy us a coffee.
Just go to www.buymeacoffee.com/Will and Dave Show. There's no the in there. They wouldn't let us fit that. But yeah, it's just a small one-time donation for the price of a coffee that you can support our show and help us keep it going.
And the real reason we do that is because you shouldn't send cash through the mail. And we know all of you are dying to send us a bunch of Benjamins, but just don't.
Yeah, I need money to buy more treats to get the cat to show up on set.
Hey, the cat's there. I can see her behind you. It's all good.
She is. Briefly, yeah.
So before we go on, I want to make something very clear on the Will and Dave Show. And this it's been bugging me for a little while now. There seems to be an idea that the Will and Dave Show is, he's a heathen and I'm a Christian and we're going to argue the case for Christianity. And that's not the case. This is not a Christian show. This is not a religious show. This is not a show about Jesus Christ. Even though his name slips out of William's mouth every now and then, it's usually not in the right way. We want to make very clear, I want to make very clear that even though I am a Christian and I am a believer, this show is not my showcase, and this is not how to word this gently. I'm not out to convert people. I don't want to do it. There are lots of folks who do that, and I'm not one of them, and this show is not that forum. So as we get into our topics over the next few months and years, yes, I said years, you guys are stuck with us. I want to make that very clear that you will not hear me argue the right. How do I want to word this? I'm not going to argue religion. And I'm not going to argue as a Christian. Just want to put that out there before we get into this week. Hey, Will.
If I can make an attempt at clarification on your last bit there, you're not here to make a case for Christ or to argue in favor or against religion. That's not the purpose of our show. Although we do debate some of the actions taken by religious and non-religious people and the morality or the intelligence of those decisions, but we're not here to actually make a moral statement on one way or the other, or to debate that overarching position.
Yeah, I guess I believe in that the old adage. It's ascribed to Francis of Assisi, who he said, "You ought to spread the gospel wherever you go, and if necessary, use words."
Yes.
And I don't think that my words are eloquent enough that I should be using them to spread the case for Christ, because I'll turn people off. So don't listen to what I say, please, to spread the case for Christ.
Yeah.
There are others who are way better at it.
Right.
So
We'll
I just
we'll
want
stay
to
in
put
our
that out
lane
there.
complaining about politics.
Yes. Our lane is arguing with one another,
Exactly.
which we never
So-
do,
Never.
but we might this week.
Hey, maybe. I think there's some parts we're going to agree on. So for this week, our story is something that I saw in the news. I'm going to quickly give you a brief rundown. Most of my information is from a National Post article, although I have corroborated some of that with a few other publications. The general gist of this story is, let me find a date for everyone here quickly. So this is reported as of March 17th, so 10 days ago. But a father in British Columbia was arrested and taken into custody and put in jail temporarily due to violating a court order in regards to talking about any of the details revolving around a case concerning their teenage daughter. So the child is in the process of transitioning. It doesn't mention whether it's male to female or female to male. They're transitioning. It also doesn't go into much detail as to the specifics of what stage of transitioning they're at, whether they're going through hormone blockers or actual gender reassignment, anything like that. We don't know the details. That's kind of intentional. The court had ordered that none of these details be shared with the public by anyone, because the mother is in support of the child doing this and the father is against the child doing this. Child, we don't know the exact age. We know they're older than 12. We don't know anything other than that. But the father, on multiple occasions, ignored this court order. So he gave interviews where he gave names, locations, talked about the physician's name, which he was specifically ordered not to do. And he used the child's birth name, not their new chosen name based on their preferred gender, and refused to use the child's preferred pronouns. Now, the pronouns and everything, those weren't necessarily illegal to use, or the lack of pronouns for the father, but his giving of names, dates, locations, physicians' names, etc., were directly against a court order, and so he was arrested. This is just such a gold mine of interesting stuff to talk about, I think, at least.
And hence, it's the topic of the show tonight.
Yeah. So I think what we can agree on to start with is that the father was way out of line. Way out of line. All right?
Yes. I'm going to go this far with that. I don't think that he should have mentioned his kid's name. I don't think that he should have mentioned the details of the case. But I also think that he probably was in a corner, or he felt he had nowhere else he could turn to make his case.
Yes.
So he turned to the press. So
Yeah.
not that that's an excuse, but it is maybe a reason.
Yeah, that's my assumption, is that the reason that he went this route. I want to give him the benefit of doubt and assume that he's not doing it just to be vitriolic. And like you say, he feels like he's backed into a corner. So maybe the court case where he's, in court fighting his wife and child's decision to go forward with gender reassignment therapy, not surgery.
So his wife agreed
Um,
with it?
Yeah, the wife supports the child's decision to do this, and he does not. And so they're in court fighting about it because the child and the mother have decided they're going to do it, and he says, "No, you can't do it."
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, I assume that he must feel backed into a corner. Maybe the court case is not going in his favor. I don't know what other factors may be playing into it, but I do agree. I think he's likely doing it out of desperation as opposed to doing it just to hurt the child.
Yes. I don't.
at least
I
hope that's
mean,
the
unless
case.
he's a moron, which is possible. I mean, I don't know the guy from Adam, so unless he's a
Mhm.
moron, I doubt he's looking at hurting the kid.
Right.
But I think he is making a point. Whether we agree on that or not is another story. But I think that we do agree he shouldn't have used his 12-year-old, 11-year-old.
We know they're older than 12. We don't
Okay.
know. We know they started to transition at the age of 12. We don't know if that was this year or maybe this has been going on for a few years. We're not sure. The court has been very careful to maintain a pretty strict level of anonymity around the child. Like, I could have
Right.
dug into it deeper, but I
Right.
actively chose not to go watch the interviews with the father and whatnot. As much as I like hearing the other side of the story, I want to respect the kid's decision to stay anonymous. I'm assuming the kid is asking for that.
So I hear these, and I want to get into the idea of transitioning at 12 years old, as I
Yes.
think that is a very real aspect of this,
Yeah.
which the dad is making,
Yeah.
which I think is a valid point. How he did it,
Yes.
we can agree or disagree, and I think we agree on. But I do think we have some very sharp differences in if he should be allowed to consider this at the
Yeah.
age of 12.
Well, that's part of it's hard for me to draw a concrete conclusion again because we don't know the exact details of age and whatnot, but we also don't know what stage of transitioning they're going through. It could be that they're just we could be talking hormone blockers, which we've discussed privately a couple of times.
And we
There's
still
mixed
don't
reception to
agree on.
those. Yeah. We could be talking about actual hormone therapy. I don't even know. This is my very layman's understanding of transitioning. As far as I understand, there's blockers, there's actual transition, like hormone transitioning, which would involve estrogen or testosterone appropriately,
Right.
and then there's surgical transition, which
Right.
the child, as far as I know, is not even legal for the child to get actual gender reassignment surgery yet. They would have to be of legal age to make that call themselves, but they can do puberty blockers, and I believe at a certain point with parental what's the word I'm looking for? Parental guidance or consent, or guardian guidance or consent. I believe they can in Canada, but it's not just like we want to do it, we do it. There's a process to it. Like it's not just something you can decide to do, talk to your doctor, and then voila, drugs fix it. I believe it's somewhat similar to the UK system where there's a very substantial process.
Here's my immediate reaction to this is that you were young once, William. I was your dad.
Mhm.
You could do nothing until the age of 18 or 16. I think it was 18. You couldn't get a loan. You couldn't own a car. You could not
Right.
have a driver's license. You couldn't do anything
Mhm.
at all without my consent.
Yeah.
You could not. You couldn't have a movie card
Yeah.
without my consent up until you're 18.
Mhm.
It wasn't allowed. I mean, it was not even an issue of, well, maybe we'll make exception if you have a job.
Right.
You couldn't do it.
Mhm.
And yet in society now, we look at a 12-year-old and we say, you know what? you want to transition your gender or your sex rather. Is it your gender or
Yes.
sex? It would be gender. It'd be transitioning your
Gender would be a matter of expression. A sex would be the physical characteristics.
Yeah,
So
except
a
he
sex-
can't alter his chromosomes.
Yeah.
So he really
No,
is altering his
so-
gender.
Yes, it's I don't know where the line is drawn in terms
Yeah.
of gender reassignment
Anyways, it
surgery,
doesn't matter.
but again, the name gender reassignment
Yes.
surgery makes me think yes, he's transitioning,
Yes.
or they are transitioning their gender. I keep using the pronouns that
So
I don't
we
know
want
whether or
to
not they apply.
say that at 12,
Yeah.
he is developed enough mentally
Mhm.
that he can look at himself and say, he or she, I'm using the masculine as
They is the easiest to use term. to use today.
they are looking at their sex and saying, I don't agree with it. I want to be something else. And even with consent, I have an issue with that, as they don't, if they aren't old enough to have a movie card at 18 without their parental consent, how can they logically have the mental wherewithal or capacity
Ooh, that was a
to
big word
look
for
at
you.
this and say, ooh, I don't like my sex or my gender. I want to change. Even with parental consent. And we're looking at them and saying, yeah, I agree with you. As your dad, I agree with you. I think you have it all together at 12.
Well, so
And I bet you that is dad's argument.
probably. First off, I want to just add the slight clarification. We know they are 12 or older. They could be older than 12.
Even
Usually-
13, 14, 15, I would say the same thing.
Usually,
Yes.
from what research I've done, this is actually research on a different topic that we discussed,
Mhm.
but it's relevant to this. From what I understand, generally speaking, when a physician recommends / authorizes hormone treatment or puberty blockers, etc., generally speaking, it's not done because the kid just wants it. It's not just like, hey, I'm uncomfortable with my gender, I would like to change it. Okay, kid, you sure you want it? Yeah. Okay, cool. Here you go. It's usually done because there are significant mental health complications that the physician is deciding are like the root cause is rooted in the gender dysphoria. So like if a 13-year-old is severely depressed and the physician thinks that their gender dysphoria is playing a very significant role in that extreme depression, then the physician could be like, hey, let's take this treatment option to try and treat the depression via way of treating the gender dysphoria. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that clearly?
Yes, I don't. First off, I want to say, I see we have a comment from Flag Fishing at Bow River, but I don't know who you are. So as
I
much
wonder
as
if
we
somebody
would
just forgot they were
love,
logged into their business account.
we'd love to say hi to you, Fly Fishing Bow River, but we're not sure who you are.
You know what?
But
We'll do it anyways. Hi, Fly Fishing Bow River.
yes, we're glad you're along for the ride on such a happy topic.
Yeah.
If you have an opinion, I have an option here to ban you, but I don't think I'm going to do that. This is
Any
new.
support we can get.
It's Dana Lattery. Hi, Dana.
I don't know who Dana is, but hi, how are you?
She's a friend of mine.
There you go. You're allowed to have those, I guess.
I'm allowed to have friends? Sweet. And I know where the Bow River is, but where on the Bow River is that you are fishing, Dana? Well, I'm asking her, not you, Will.
Hopefully where the fish are.
But where is the Bow River, William? Do you know before she answers?
No. I don't fish.
It runs through
Or
Calgary.
What is it? Is that the one
Yeah,
that
it's
ties into the halfway?
No, this is in Calgary, Alberta, William.
Yeah.
Yes, no, it doesn't
thought
tie in.
the-
No.
Well, no, like not tie into the halfway, but the halfway ties into some other larger rivers. Anyways, I don't know
Peace
bugger
River,
all.
you're thinking.
Peace River, thank you. Yeah, I don't know diddly squat about rivers. I don't even know that much about trans rights, but I definitely know nothing about rivers.
They flow in one direction. Can you usually, unless there's a whirlpool,
Usually.
and there's fish in them usually.
Oh man, that's such a good metaphor. You just gave me that metaphor on a silver platter. They flow in one direction usually, unless there's a whirlpool.
Yes.
Then it's very confusing and difficult.
Oh, yeah,
Sometimes you
I'm
need
sure
help
we'll
to
get
figure it
there.
out.
I'm sure
Sometimes you
we'll
can't
get
do it
there.
on your own, and you need some help. Sometimes a little help is just required, man. Those whirlpools are dangerous. Sucks
Okay,
right
I
in.
like that, Dana. Oh, that's classic. We're gonna get back to the topic, Will, because we had to lighten the mood there for a second. It was getting heavy.
Yeah.
So I'm sure in this dad's mind, he's saying this youngster
Mhm.
who is not old enough is not able to make this choice.
Right.
So you do hormone blockers, and now, so we had an argument earlier in the week is because you said, well,
Right.
it just is blockers, Dad, and if they stop
It's a-
them,
it's
it just all goes away. But that's not quite true.
not a way, but progress reconvenes.
Yes, but it's stunted, and there are
Yeah.
lasting effects from hormone blockers.
Oh, absolutely. There's lasting effects from almost any treatment for
So it isn't
any
vitamin
mental health
C.
disorder.
So it isn't vitamin
No,
C.
no,
We
no.
stop taking it, and it's all
I would-
normal. It's something
I would
that
put it in the same category as birth control or treatment for any severe mental health disorder in terms of like the severity of the medication.
Yes.
And what it does to your body.
So I am sure that Mr. Dad is looking at his kid and saying, I don't think you're ready to make this decision yet.
Mhm.
Now, there is an argument that if mom is saying that the youngster is, there's an argument there that says maybe she knows more about the situation because moms usually do.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into the religious aspect of this, as that is a whole nother argument.
Yeah.
That's not really my argument. But my argument is a logical one, is that
Mhm.
if up until you're 18 years old, you can't have a movie card. Now there are no
Yeah.
more movie cards anymore, but you know what I'm talking about.
Well, yes and no.
You
I
can't
do
have
get-
a
I do get where you're
Facebook
coming from.
account until you're 13.
See, this is one of the things though. Technically,
Yes.
and I think that technicality is not because Facebook doesn't think you're capable. I think it's Facebook covering their butts legally for harm or things that may be said or done to minors via Facebook. But like I look at work, like look at agricultural work. I want to be very clear as I make this example that I'm not bashing on agriculture workers who have their kids work with them or work
Right.
for them, because I support that. I think that working as a family unit is part of the lifeblood of being a farmer or a rancher, is your kids helping out.
Right.
I mean, not as like a whip cracking workforce, but as family and landowners.
Right.
But if we can trust kids to drive like immensely expensive and dangerous machinery,
yes.
I do think that by the age of, this is just my opinion, but by the age of the early teens, I do think that a kid can at least have some inkling like of a life-changing decision like that. Like this isn't like I want to be an astronaut when I grow up. I take the people who have gone through its word for it when they say that it's such a drastic rift in their lives, that this feeling of being, well, it's the feeling of gender dysphoria, which I have no concept of because I've never gone through it or felt it. I've never felt like I don't belong in the skin that I was born in. Like this is just incorrect. Like
So I never
know how to
have
describe
either,
it.
obviously. I've never had that
Yeah.
problem. I've never had that feeling. Here's what I have had. Again, I am going to use this a little bit as an example, Will. many moons ago, I was young like you.
Oof, long time ago.
And many moons before that, I was younger than you. And I liked a girl.
Mm-hmm.
I was head over heels in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
And she did not return this. And now I'm not making any of this up. This is all true. And she did not return my affections. And I might have been 9 or 10. I was young. So I stood at the top of a bank. Again, this went over in my mind. Yeah, now it was years and years. It probably was weeks and weeks. Weeks and weeks. And I was heartbroken. So I'm walking around. I walked out to the river, and there's a bank. Oh yeah, it might have been 80 feet high or 60 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there, and I was heartbroken. I'm crying. I'm young. It's puppy love, right? It's infatuation.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it is now. Yeah. Then I didn't.
It just felt so world shattering and real at the time.
And I looked at the river, and I looked at the cliff, and I thought, I could go down there.
Mm-hmm.
It'd all be over.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I came to my senses. I turned around and I went back. Except I was sure. I was sure that my world was ending if this girl did not return my affections. I was sure. I was emotionally distraught.
Mm-hmm.
Not straught.
Distraught.
I was distraught. It's a longer word than I'm used to using. I was emotionally distraught.
Yeah.
And I was about to make a life-altering decision.
Yeah.
And I backed off. And so I made the right decision. But...
And I get what you're saying. I do. And I'm gonna touch on that comment in just a second. So I'll get you to throw it up again in a minute. But first, I want to touch on what you just said. I get that. But these decisions that these kids are making are not being made alone. Like, we're talking, in this particular case, they have at least one parent backing them up and validating that decision. But they also have at least one doctor. I'm going to assume, let me just quickly peruse the article. Doctors.
Yes.
So there's at least multiple physicians involved that are also looking at this case and saying, this is correct and this is valid. If it was just the kid making the decision, or even just the kid and one parent, I'm right with you in that I would question the validity of that, of the action and of the strength of that feeling.
So I am almost sure, though. I mean, I can't imagine that the kid wakes up and goes to school, is all depressed, and mom walks up and said, you know what? He's a she.
No.
Goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, yep, he's a she. And then they talk with the kid, and they say, really? You're a she.
That's not how it goes.
Right. It all begins with the kid, and the kid says, hey, I think I'm a she, or vice versa. I'm using the one direction right now because where I started with the conversation. But it begins with the kid, and the kid says, ooh, I don't know. I think something's wrong. And so mom concurs. But those of us on the other side of the conversation, at the age of 12, at the age of
12 is when it's
13, 14, 15, I don't know that he has, yes, he's emotionally mangled. He's emotionally stressed, but I don't know that he has the cognitive ability as your mother.
Yeah, we're going to get into that quickly.
And to make that
Again, I don't. We keep equating it, or it feels like we're equating it to a eureka moment, like a moment where they hit upon this. That's what I need. That's what I want. So in the article, it mentions that they began socially transitioning at 12. So that's how we got the age 12 and beyond.
Yes. Yeah.
So socially transitioning usually starts with clothing. So let's say the kid gets the idea, hey, I feel like I would be happier as this other gender, right? And they decide, you know what, I'm going to do this thing that's socially kind of risky. You're risking friendships and whatnot at school. And they're like, you know what? I'm going to dress differently. I'm going to dress like a different gender,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to see how that makes me feel. Maybe they saw themselves as a mirror wearing a different article of clothing, and were like, wow, I feel really good in this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the process that I imagine is happening as a child. Is you start with the wearing of clothing, and then you start with your friends being like, hey, can you use this different pronoun when you're talking to me? Maybe there's all these different steps that occur, and it's not just a, hey, you know what, this is what I want. But also I really want to touch on that comment. So I'm going to read the comment out quickly. So this is from our illustrious sponsor, Stitch by Susan, no relation. Sorry, Will, disagree. A kid's reflexes enable them to drive expensive equipment, but they do not have the cognitive ability to make decisions that will affect them for 75 years. So first I'm going to touch on reflexes. Reflexes decide how they react to things that happen. You, as the owner of the equipment, or the parent of this kid, has to trust the kid's judgment enough to drive these things. Like if we look at a rancher and they like, hey kid, go plow the field in this tractor, they may be driving a multi-$100,000 machine. I'm not saying that's always the case. They're not always being given control over the most expensive machines, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're trusting the kid's judgment when driving a machine that can kill other people and themselves if they make a mistake. So it's not just a matter of reflexes. There's a lot of trust in the kid's cognitive ability, but I want to get into the decisions that will affect them for the rest of their lives. If we don't trust kids to have an opinion, a significant opinion on their gender and their sexuality, why the hell do we push kids to choose a lifelong profession before they make it out of high school? Why is there a pressure for kids to decide who they want to be and what they want to do for the rest of their lives, what they want to go to college for?
Oh, I don't think we do.
Well, we don't as much anymore because we're becoming a little bit more aware of the fact that pressuring kids to do that. But I remember for my wife in her generation in high school, there was so much pressure on them to know where they wanted to go to school and what they wanted to go to school for before their last 2 years in high school, so that they could spend those last 2 years gunning for those positions, like trying to get into those schools and into those lines of work and trying to get credit in those appropriate fields. If we trust them with planning for their long-term financial future, we have to at least give them some credit in knowing their own feelings and their own emotions well enough to have some significant understanding of their own gender and what they want their gender to be. And again, it's not just them making this call, or it shouldn't be just them, especially when we're talking about medical hormone transitioning. They're going through parents, they're going through physicians, plural.
I get that part. Although I guess I'm saying that I believe that the dad so I'm not excusing his going and arguing with the press or out in the open like that.
But you understand his opposition to the ruling in the first place.
Yes, I do understand that, as I think that very clearly in society, there's this age gap. I can't vote until I turn 18 in Canada. Is it 19 in Canada? I think it's 19 in Canada.
It's 18, I believe. But
is it I think it's 19 to vote, isn't it? I could look.
No, because I could vote. I could vote before I could drink in BC.
Okay, that's right.
It was 18, I believe.
Okay, there's another good one. You can't have a beer until you're 18 or 19.
That's another problem.
So we look at these things and we say, you don't have the ability to make these decisions. Here's a good one. You can't have a beer, even with parental consent, legally. You can't have a beer.
Legally. But this is the thing. Using what's legal as the barometer for this is a terrible measuring stick, because
but that
9 out of 10 families I know bought their kids booze.
Yeah, except for that is the argument at play here, as they say, oh, we want it legally in the courts. We want a youngster from the age of 12 to 15, say, to say, yes, I don't like my gender. I want to be somebody else. And I think that the counter argument is, wait a minute, you don't have the cognitive ability to make that decision. Now, I don't mind if you want to dress as something else. I don't mind. Speaking of dressing, I'm going to lighten this up for just a minute here. I was down in Wenatchee, this afternoon, and I was at a park. And I drive up to the park, and the kid I'm driving, he looks out and he said, "What is that?" And I look over, and there are three guys in costumes with plastic swords, sword fighting in the middle of the park. And they were there for the whole hour, sword fighting with plastic swords in costume in the middle of the park.
Contact or just like play?
I
Were they
did
walking each other with them?
no.
Okay.
But they were in costume in the middle of a park.
Could have
Three
been
grown
practicing
men.
for theater.
They could have been, but why would you be in costume in the middle of a park?
If I had the option to practice when I was doing theater that involved sword fighting, if I had the option to sword fight in costume, I would, just because
In
you want to be
public?
comfortable.
In public?
I personally wouldn't do it publicly.
Thank you.
More power to them.
I feel much better about my child raising skills right with that statement right there. I'm driving thinking, man, it takes all kinds to make the world go round.
It takes some bravery to do that in public.
It does. So there's a part of me that says, okay, if you're 11, if you're 16 and you decide, hey, I want to wear makeup.
Mhm.
If you're male or female, I really don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't. I mean, as much as I look at it and said, is there something wrong? It is not.
And
It isn't life ending. It isn't life altering.
I imagine that the vast majority of young people that talk to a physician about gender reassignment and gender therapy, I would hazard a guess that the majority of them don't get given hormones, don't get given treatment for the gender dysphoria. The majority of them probably get treatment maybe for a depression or whatever mental health is causing symptoms. I imagine most of them are encouraged to socially transition with their dress, with their mannerisms, with their pronouns, etc. And many of them probably end up talking with a therapist or a counselor about this exact issue. I don't have anecdotal evidence because I don't actually know that many trans people. So
maybe now would be a wonderful place to put in a qualifier that we don't.
Yeah, we don't know a thing. We don't know anything. We don't know anything. We don't know shiitake mushrooms about this about actually being trans or the trans experience.
Right. So what you're hearing is a couple of dudes' opinions.
We should have this on a T-shirt at some point. But it's like we are two white cis dudes talking about gender rights. So take everything we say with a big old cup of salt.
I think I'll cut that and I'll put it at the beginning of the podcast.
That'd be great. A great little intro.
We don't know shiitake about mushrooms or gender dysphoria. Hey, I got that word right the first time.
You did. I'm very proud of you. You also said wherewithal earlier.
Well,
look at you go, man.
I can learn.
I'm rubbing off, I guess. But yeah, and I want to address two things, and
yes.
I these are kind of calling you out, but I don't want it to be like aggressively calling you out, Dave.
Well, you can call me out. I don't mind.
It's something that I'm trying to work on, and it's two things. One is we keep using the language that they just decide, or they basically I know that we've conversed about it, and you've confirmed that you are not assuming that they're just having a eureka moment and deciding, oh yeah, I'm a different gender. But we keep using language that implies that, like just decided, and making it sound like it's something sudden when it's usually not. And the other thing is using the phrase, I'm trying to remember exactly how you phrased it, deciding that you want to be different.
Yes.
I think that for most trans people, and I understand this is splitting hairs and this is semantics, but I just want to say it. If we ever have anyone trans watching this, I want them to hear this. That I don't think for most of them, I don't think they think of it as, oh, I need to change or I need to be something different. I think most of them view it as, oh, I want to express who I am better. It's not a matter of being something different than what you are as much as it is being able to properly express what you already know or think you are.
Right. Again, that is where I think our fundamental difference is for me, and I believe your mom as well. We don't think that you know what you are at the age of 12 or 13 or 14.
And that's why we have guardians and physicians to try and help youth make those decisions.
It's one of the things that so I have to be careful as my internal biases. So my kids all laugh at me. I'm going to put this out there. So my kids all laugh at me, all four of you, as every time you would ask me if you could do something, what was my automatic answer?
No.
It was always no up front. And then I would go think about it, or mom would say, hey, maybe you need to think about that before you say no. And I come back and say, well, no, but here's the reason, or your mom talked me into it, or
yes,
I made a mistake. So my initial response to this is that it's dumb. I don't like the topic. I don't like the conversation, as I think it's dumb. And when I step back and I need to think about this a little bit, as it is not an easy, it is not a one and done answer. It is not
there's no clean cut black and white way of looking at it.
And so I don't want to give the impression I think there is. I think that there is, though, science, and there are lots of scientists who back this up. You don't know what you're doing until your mind or your brain is evolved enough or grown enough that you can make these decisions even with your parents' consent. And again, this is why you can't get a driver's license at 8 years old, even with your parents' consent. The government doesn't care that you are really good at driving a tractor on the farm.
Yeah.
You can't get in a car and drive in Toronto or in Los Angeles at the age of 8.
It's very true.
As you're not capable of it. And there's a reason why they do that is you're not capable.
And by that, sorry, go ahead.
So I look at this and I say, even if mom agrees, even if dad agrees, there's a lot of science that says you don't know what you are until you're older. And I don't know what the age is. And I don't want to argue the age.
Yeah.
There are people that says it is at 12. There's others who says, well, if you can't drink at 18, then why can you choose your gender at 8? You know, so there is an argument, I think, and it's a valid argument there somewhere.
I agree with you that the measuring of where is best to put that age limit is a discussion that needs to be had. I think it's something that we haven't, like as a larger topic in society, where we've put a lot of money and effort into deciding how old is old enough to drive or drink or own a movie card. I'm sure there's lots of science into how old you need to be to own a movie card, your scene card.
Yes.
But
now you're really dating yourself, Will.
Yeah, I know. Well, they still have those out here.
They
still have scene cards out here. Oh yeah, the theater uses them. It's like
oh my gosh.
I believe it's like an affiliate thing for a credit card company.
Oh,
so you get bonus points. So where you would get air miles,
right?
You get scene points, and so you can go to movies for free. Anyways, tangent. I don't think we've put enough work in as society to properly gauge exactly where that age is yet. I think that's something that needs to be addressed on a much bigger scale as society and as a government in Canada specifically, or in the States, as to where that line needs to be drawn. Yeah, in the world.
Yeah.
We need more information, more science, and more studies into where that line needs to be. Because right now we're arguing semantics as to what we feel is the right.
I lost you, Will. I lost your audio.
Where'd you lose me at?
Yeah, about a sentence and a half ago.
Yeah, we just need more science and more studies into these things, because where we put the work in to decide where the line should be drawn for driving and drinking and all these different things, and where a parent has now said what they think, or these two parents from opposing sides, they're having to debate it because there's no clear rulings. They have to go through the court system and everything to try and find a ruling for where that line needs to be. And it's so both inefficient, but also it's such a massive and traumatic process for the parents and the child to go through to define these lines, and to do that on a case-by-case basis with so many people. We need to put the work in as a world, as a country, as a government, to figure out where that line is supposed to be at healthily. Like, we can argue about it all we want until we turn blue in the face, but we do need better, more concrete evidence to set that line, like we have with driving, like we have with drinking, which
Right.
those are still being debated too. But the point remains
Absolutely.
that it would be easier for for people who are debating it, but more importantly, it'll be easier for the kids and the parents if they have a clear guideline. If a kid knows, hey, I can't get gender therapy pre, let's arbitrarily say 16.
Yeah.
At least then they have an endpoint. The kid can look at that and be like, hey, all I got to do is make it to this point, whether that's 16, 18, whatever.
Right.
They at least have a light at the end of the tunnel. At this point, if you're a kid whose parents don't support you in this decision, you don't know exactly when that is. You have to wait until you can get out from under your parents' roof, maybe, and you don't know
Right.
when that is. If you live in
Well,
a
it's
place that
18.
doesn't have
It's
18,
I
but
believe.
let's say you live in a small town that doesn't have much work and you don't have the money to get out of the town. Like, I'm just saying that it's nicer to have a clearly defined endpoint for these youth to see and to know that.
Well, I don't think you can make an economic argument for getting out of mom and dad's home for an endpoint.
Yeah, I'm just saying that
There
that
is an
blurred
endpoint.
line,
I think it's 18 or 19 or whatever the legal
Yeah.
age is in
right?
the state in which you live.
So
I have to
that-
ask you, Will,
let's
I
say
just-
that-
I just want to interrupt you. Is your cat going nuts?
yeah, she's going a little bit nuts. Yeah,
I can hear her.
is it really loud?
Oh, I can hear her. It's awesome.
Oh shoot,
Is she wearing a jingle bell?
she does have a little bell on her collar. Yeah,
I can hear it dingling.
it's cute because she's like this gunmetal gray, silvery color, and then we got her like a rose gold. It's like a pink and then with a little rose gold bell. It looks so cute on her. That's a good way to close this topic, is talking about how freaking adorable my cat is. We'll put a picture up on the website or social media or something so
There
you
we
all can
go.
enjoy just how cute my cat is.
Just how cute your cat is. I don't think there is such a thing as a cute cat.
I think you're absolutely wrong because mine is adorable.
So we ended on an argument over cats are cute or not.
This is my life.
It is, Will, when we look at these topics, and this is a great one, I don't know that we'll ever agree. I think that there is a
think you're right.
vast amount of difference in between us in this topic. I think it's obvious.
Yeah.
We all live in a society, though, where we breathe the same air,
Mhm.
and we go to the same Tim Hortons, and we go to Starbucks, or we go to church, or we go out for dinner, or we go to Thanksgiving dinner,
Yeah.
and we have to get along with one another, even though we don't agree about these things.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I look at it, and the number of times, like, this is probably the most divisive subject we've had in the terms that, like,
I
how
think so.
little middle ground we're finding between us. But even with that limited middle ground, where, my line is on one side and your line is on the other, there's little tendrils that are reaching towards the middle in various points. We've both made little concessions and little, like, you have a point there moments that, while we're definitely not meeting in the middle by any
Right.
metric,
Right.
there is still,
Because that was never our goal, was to meet in the
Yeah.
middle.
no,
It was
but there's
never
a-
agree
there's
to
a-
disagree.
Yeah, but we've found commonality. We've found
Yeah.
some level of conjuncture or I don't know I can't think of a better word for it, but we found some
Conjuncture.
level, some connective tissue. We found some things where we can come closer to being in the middle on, and somehow that makes it feel less divisive.
I like, gosh, you threw a whole bunch of really big words in 2 sentences.
It's my thing.
See, I'm
Between
still a Dr.
episodes, I'm just
Seuss
flipping
guy.
through with the
Thing
thesaurus.
1 and thing 2. So I'm going to throw this comment on the stream again. I love it. Oh, whoa. Let's go back. A
Big
big
river?
river that identifies the lake. I
Identifies
love
the
that. It's one of the things that those on the right have long held this hatred of this, not hatred, that's a strong word. This what's the word I want?
Disdain,
Yeah,
contempt.
dismissive attitude about this whole idea of, I identify as a you name it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we use these horrendous examples of, I identify as
An Apache
sick-
attack helicopter.
yes, or I identify as a 60-year-old so I can get my discount at Applebee's, and we
Oh,
use
boy,
this
howdy.
example or this horrible, and I do think it's horrible, as I don't agree with identity politics, and yet
Right.
it's a real aspect of our society. It's very real in that it's being used by a whole lot of people, and to look at it and just throw it out the window is
Doing yourself a disservice.
a huge mistake. And it's not that you have to agree with it.
But it behooves you to understand it.
Yes, understand it and have a conversation about it.
Mhm.
As there are folks who identify as all kinds of things. I saw people in the park today who identified as sword fighters with plastic swords. And I look at them and my eyebrows. Are you laughing at your cat?
Yeah, she identifies as a heat-seeking missile right now.
And Brad, I will agree with you. Dave
Dave is
is
Dave.
Dave. And
Yeah. Which is, speaking of identity and all these different things, is it next week or the week after that is going to be live stream shenanigans with Will?
It is the weekend of, let me pull up my calendar. Oh, it is.
I can't remember if it was the 3rd or the 10th. I think it was the 10th.
Yes, it's the 10th.
Okay, so now that you've touched on this identity and all this stuff,
Yes.
stay tuned, everyone. This is your heads up. So on the 10th, Dave will not be in studio. He's going to be on vacation.
Maybe.
You're going to be stuck with me, and we're going to have a fun little time dissecting a lot of the terminology used in gender politics, because it's like this is an offshoot of a rant that I've had to Dave a couple of times, which is people using the wrong words when talking about gender politics, using words incorrectly. And I don't want to get into rights or wrongs in gender politics in terms of like the actual outcomes, but I would love to educate people on using the right
Vocabulary.
terminology and vocabulary. Thank you.
Yes.
Using the right vocabulary around gender politics. So we're going to spend a nice live stream where hopefully I'll have people there that are watching, that we can talk and do some questions and answers. But
I'll be watching if I'm not on the
You'll
show.
be-
I
you'll be
may
watching.
call in as a guest.
there you go. And we're going to talk about some of these terms and the vocabulary around gender politics, because I see it being misused egregiously far too often by both the left and the right. I don't want you to think that I'm just harping on conservatives. People on the left use it wrong all the time.
Lemuel. He is a
Who?
friend of mine, Will, and I invited him in to have a look at the stream and to give us some feedback.
Oh, nice.
He's a gentleman, I believe, from New York, because every once in a while I see a picture of
New York.
him. He is in the Bronx. Is that right? In the Bronx, Lem?
I'm not sure.
Where is that? And he has been a great instructor for me in learning how to work with lights and stuff. And actually, while these guys are around, I want to say a huge thank you to Ecamm, who is not a sponsor of the show, except without whom I would not be able to do the show. It enables us to do all the cool overlays and the cameras and the After Effects and the lights and everything. And
Because then the show's possible.
yes, Ecamm and the community around Ecamm, and Lem is a part of that amazing amount of help I've gotten out of these guys for lights and sound and audio. And I've invited them in and to give us a bit of a feedback on how we look, how we
Feedback
sound,
is good.
how we suck or don't. How we should stay in our lane and quit talking about gender identity. I don't have any Ecamm affiliate.
We're
I'm
quite
not
cool
that
enough for
big.
that yet. Working on it. It's
I
progress.
have 4 viewers, Lem. That's all we got.
Hopefully we do better next week.
Yeah, no, it's been a learning curve. Will we?
Oh yeah.
I was looking at some of the older episodes, and we're a long way from where
Oh,
we
yeah.
where we started 6 months ago.
While editing the website this week, we had to cull some of our old videos from the episodes page. So for those of you who might be looking for older episodes, you can still find them on the YouTube channel. They just won't be on our
Yeah.
current episodes page on the website.
Yeah.
But while editing that, I was going through and watching some of our old videos and some of our precursors to the show, and we've come a long ways in a few months. Like not even just in like camera and lighting, but us, like our ability to talk on a microphone and look at our cameras is increased exponentially.
It'll be a cold day
a
in
few
hell
months.
before I can talk on anything, much less a microphone. But I'll take what you say.
The compliments where you can get them, Dave.
No, thank you. It's one of those. I was looking at one of the promo videos, actually, Will, that you did,
Mhm.
and I'm watching that. And I'm thinking, holy cow,
Mhm.
we've come a long way, and it's because of the guys in the ECAM group who
Mhm.
I reached out to early on, to Luriag and to Lem and to Doc Rock and some of these guys, and I just asked them, said, how do I do this or how do I do that? And they were just so helpful. So my response and payback is I harassed them all on their streams. I think Doc Rock is going to ban me from his, but
There you go. You know you're doing the internet right when you get banned from somewhere.
yeah, I keep saying I'm running this on an $18 mic and an iPhone 6S camera. That's my budget.
You got me beat, man.
Oh, you have a camera, you just haven't set it up yet.
Yeah, I gotta buy all the accoutrement to go with it.
It's coming.
We're getting there.
Yeah. So, Will, I think we're about wrapping up for the week.
I think so. I think that's it for today.
I don't know what we have on the agenda for next week, or do we have an agenda for next week?
I don't think we have anything ironed out yet. We're still
Is it a
hashing
roll
out
the
what our
dice?
topic's going to be, but it's going to be a one-off. We may or may not have a guest. We haven't decided yet.
Right. Oh, that's right. Here's one of the things we're thinking about for next week. The difference in the approach to the C word, that awful disease,
Mm-hmm.
in the USA and Canada, as it is vastly different. It's vastly different on how we approach. Oh, it's Easter weekend next weekend, Will. We're going to have to work out some Easter bunnies in there
We work
somehow.
we work the weekends, man.
I wonder
No
if
time off for us. We're on the grind.
I wonder if they were testing the V word on rabbits. Maybe we can make that Easter connection. I don't know. I don't know. It's rabbits.
It's a segue, I guess.
Is the V word, are we allowed to say that, or is it as banned as the C word?
I don't know.
Okay. We can't say anything.
Yeah. Tasty censorship. Love it.
Okay, well, until next week, have you got anything wise and wonderful to tell our viewers?
Stay safe. Don't die.